it's easy to get sort of get lost in the privileges you have. At the age of 15, I went on exchange to Argentina. That instability and that inequality, that has really left an impression on me. When I looked at conventional programs, I always felt like something was missing. And with PB, you have this interdisciplinary mindset. You are open to other ideas. Questions of migration, moral responsibilities. Is the government responsible for that? Am I responsible for that? Inequality often plays a great role in the economy, but as well in the political field. PB has challenged me to dive more deeper into my core values. What do I think is right? My name is Marlene Tröstl, and I'm doing a bachelor's in philosophy, politics and economics at VU Amsterdam.
Great. Welcome everybody to this session where you already heard a little intro about this program, PPE, Philosophy, Politics and Economics. And you logged in to hear more about this program. And you will hear more about this in the next 45 minutes or so. We have a great lineup of speakers, professor and two students. But before we go over to them, let me briefly explain to you some of the interactive options that we have. My name is Luc Mulling, and first of all, I already saw somebody saying hello from the chat, so go ahead and say where you're from in the chat. Yeah, we'd like to see hear a bit where you're all logging in from, so go ahead and do that. If you have any questions, do let us know in the panel called Questions. We will be answering these questions from the live audience at the end of the session. From people watching the recording, you can still write questions as well. So, of course, we cannot answer them live, but we will be sending them through to the staff of the VU in Amsterdam. What else do we have? A polling. Actually, we just opened up a polling already, where we asked you about what you find important to selecting a university program. Thanks for your answers already. We will be opening up some more poll questions later on. And last but not least, we have a little fun button as well. At the bottom of the screen, you see a button called React. If you hear something you like, or you just want to give your reaction to it, there you go. That's the one. And you have some different options so you can use. And just to make it more interactive. Anyway, without further ado, let's go over to the presenters that we have lined up as mentioned. We first will start with the professor of the program, Phil Robichaud, and he will introduce himself as well as the students, Alexa and Sophia.
Hi, my name is Phil Robichaud. I'm an associate professor of philosophy at the VU Amsterdam, and I'm actually one of the coordinators of the PPE program, and it's in that role that I'll be talking to you a bit about the program. And I'm really happy to be joined by two of our students. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Sophia. I'm Italian and I'm Alexa, and I'm from Romania. We're both third-year students in the PPE program.
Great. Okay. So I want to first start off by, you've already been welcomed by Luc, but I wanted to also welcome you to this webinar. It's really an honor that you are taking some time out of your lives, your busy schedules to hear a bit about our philosophy, politics, and economics program at the VU. We have a lot of pride about our program, and we're happy to talk about it. And I wanted to also say, please do not hesitate to ask any questions in the chat at the end. We really want to help you make a good decision regarding your study choice, and that's what we're here for. But philosophy, politics, and economics, what kind of program is this? What kind of study is this? Well, it's actually a study that has a rich and long history now. It originated in Oxford in the 1920s, so to say. Since then, I mean, for a long time, it was actually just a sort of Oxford thing, and then it was a UK thing. But what we've seen recently is that the program, this kind of study has grown in popularity, and there are now many PPE programs all over the world. And the reason why, I mean, there's I think a somewhat clear reason why PPE is increasing in popularity, and students around the world are finding it, are motivated to study it. And it's because these three different disciplines, and they're very different from each other, philosophy, politics, and economics, are still somehow related in the following way. Many of the most, pressing contemporary societal issues, global issues, they really demand a kind of interdisciplinary analysis in order to understand what's going on, how to address it. You can't just look at it from one perspective. You have to look at it from different ones. And this combination of disciplines, we believe, and as I hope to demonstrate in a little bit, actually provide a really kind of unique and excellent toolkit for studying these questions. And indeed, not just studying them to understand the problems, the issues, the challenges. More than understanding, we want to help devise solutions to them. And it's by taking this interdisciplinary perspective that we can hopefully find those solutions and implement them. And what I want to do is, rather than this is just telling you what we think can happen, but I wanted to sort of do something that would, in a way, help to demonstrate that. And what I've done is put together a list of 9 different kind of like topics, societal issues, global problems, that I would like for you to vote on, and based on, I think I have time to discuss about 3 of them, depending on what you are interested in hearing. So this is a chance to take a look at the list. I think Luke is going to enable the poll, and just ask yourself, what would you like to hear about how PPE would approach this societal question? So take a look at the poll. There are 9 different options for you, and feel free to vote for any 2, and then as I see what the results are, I can take the time to mention 3 or discuss 3. The votes are coming in. Let's see. We have a 3-way tie for second. So let's see if some others can. Helpful. Thanks. Okay, let's just take one more second for people to vote. What would you like to hear? Okay, we've got some clear winners. So what I'll do is I'll discuss climate change, AI and automation, and income inequality. Let's do those. And let's see how it works. Okay. So climate change. This is maybe one of the most pressing issues that we face as a planet. And we can think, of the philosophical questions that climate change presents, right? So there are ethical and moral dimensions regarding, like, how do you trade off economic growth versus environmental sustainability? But other ethical questions as well, such as, what are the responsibilities of both us as individuals, governments, corporations, international institutions? What are their moral responsibilities in addressing this problem, and how should those responsibilities take into account, for example, who's benefited from the carbon emissions that are now causing the problem? These are all kind of tough moral and ethical questions that the philosophical perspective will allow you to examine. But of course, this is climate change is something that's happening in the world. It's affecting political things, such as international relations between between countries? How are they going to countries cooperating? But also, how is conflict arising as we try to address this issue? And what is the role of international organizations such as the UN, the WTO, in addressing climate change? And how should political, national political bodies, even local political bodies, cooperate in order to address the issue? So that's political science allows us to go into that. And then, of course, as climate changes, there are economic impacts, and the economic perspective allows you to understand, what those economic impacts are on, different industries, economic growth, but also, when it comes to solutions, what are the economic benefits of particular policies that are aimed at mitigating climate change, such as, think about renewable energy, carbon taxes. So, I think this shows that, when we think about what is climate change, and how can we actually, address climate change, taking these three different perspectives allows us to have a much richer understanding of both the problem and the feasibility and the effectiveness of different solutions, and of course the moral defensibility of different solutions. So that's climate change. So let's discuss AI and automation. So this is one that's a hot topic in the news nowadays. AI and automation from the philosophical perspective. So look, we're developing newer, faster, better artificial intelligence systems. But what kind of moral principles should we use when we're developing those? How can we make sure that these systems don't just perpetuate morally problematic things like biases and discrimination? If we're training these artificial intelligence systems on data that's produced by humans, and we have our own set of problems, will these AIs just perpetuate those? How can we ensure that these ethical problems don't arise? And from the political science perspective, we can think about, AI policy and automation policy is going to be affected by political institutions, right? Certain regulatory agencies, international treaties, all of these will impact the role that AI and automation is going to play in a given country's economy. And how, in addition to this, how can we understand that political leadership can sort of take this role? We're seeing this kind of interesting distinctions just in the last weeks between countries who are being a bit more careful, and other countries who seem to be a bit more open to just letting these things develop freely. And how can we understand that from a political science perspective? And of course, the economics of AI and automation, right? So you hear it in the news. Is AI going to take away jobs? How many jobs? What is the impact going to be on productivity, right? Will the increases in productivity allow us to make up for people losing their jobs because of these technologies? And of course, we can sort of think of like solutions to this, right? If people are going to be losing jobs, how effective? From an economic perspective, we can measure how effective will policies like universal basic income, training people so that they can operate in this new landscape. How effective will those kinds of programs be from an economic perspective? Again, I hope you can see that this new, this one issue of AI and automation. It really demands this kind of interdisciplinary perspective, and these three disciplines in particular really kind of unite in a way that allows for a really rich understanding of the problem and a way of figuring out how to solve it. And then the final one that was, I think, at the top of the list during the vote was income inequality. So from a philosophical perspective, I'm a philosopher, I'm an ethicist, and one of the things that I teach in my classes are theories of justice. These are theories which say, look, how is it just to allow income disparities, right? Severe income disparities. what does a theory of justice tell us is allowable in terms of how much inequality there could be? And in addition to that, what are the moral responsibilities of like individuals versus, say, governments in trying to affect or ensure this a fair distribution of economic resources? From a political science perspective, you can, of course, probably realize that inequality affects how people behave in their countries in terms of their political behavior. Do people who do people who have less, or people who are marginalized, do they vote as much, right? Or does this kind of lead to political polarization? How do interest groups who are pushing for policies that maybe exacerbate income inequality, how do they, how can political science can tell us what sort of policy interventions would be amenable to dealing with that situation? And then from the economic perspective, I mean, it's income inequality, so you can see that it's clearly an economic issue. But we can use economics to understand, look, how does income inequality affect productivity? How does it affect economic growth and social mobility? And then in terms of solutions, right, not just describing the problem, but the economic perspective will allow us to kind of assess the effectiveness of different policies to target or to income inequality, right? So progressive taxation, minimum wage laws, which kinds of policy tools are going to be effective from an economic perspective. So again, I hope you got to see through these three examples that these problems, and this isn't to say that these issues, and we didn't talk about all 9, we could have if we had more time. It's not to say that these issues can't be, richly and importantly, analyzed from one perspective. But it's by bringing all 3 together that we think that you really, you really get the most promise for developing, solutions to these problems that are both, kind of philosophically and ethically justifiable, that are politically feasible, and that will be economically effective. I mean, if you can say all of that in defense of a particular solution to these problems, then that's really saying a lot. And we think that PPE, by studying that, you're really in a position to do exactly that. So that concludes I'm going to have to skip through all of these, but I wanted to say a quick word about why study. This was just about why study PPE at all, but why study PPE at the VU? Right, there are different programs, so why study here? Well, here are 5 different reasons why you should study here PPE with us. The first is that our curriculum is multidisciplinary, but in a very balanced way between the 3 disciplines. There are a lot of PPE programs have a really, and in fact, I think most of them really have a dominant discipline, and it's usually philosophy, right? So it's a lot of political philosophers who are really interested in hearing from political scientists and economics, but really the core, the dominant discipline is philosophy. In our case, it's just equal across the 3. So the 3 disciplines really have a balanced presence in our department, in our program, and you'll see this as you follow it. But also what we do is related to this, we have courses which are interdisciplinary in their nature. These are called PPE and practice courses. We don't expect you to put everything together for yourself to figure out how the 3 disciplines relate to each other. We actually have courses in which we actually do that. And we do that together all in the classroom. These interdisciplinary courses I'll discuss in a bit more detail in a second. The second reason to study PPE at the VU is that we have unique facilities. We have a college here at the VU called the John Stuart Mill College. The VU Amsterdam has its campus in Amsterdam, and in most students, they sort of just follow classes here and there in different buildings. But we actually have our own. We have our own college. We have the 4th floor of the main building. It's called the John Stuart Mill College. And when you join PPE, you get to study in our own college. We have our own study facilities. We have all of our classes in the same rooms, all of our seminars in the same rooms. And this is a unique feature of our program that you'll hear more about from when Alexa and Sophia discuss student life. A third reason is what we've put together for our 5th semester of the program, which is study abroad opportunities and internship opportunities. We've worked really hard to join forces with other programs, especially other PPE programs around the world, and all of our students who follow our program will have the opportunity to do study abroad, or do an internship if that's something that they like. And again, I'll kind of go through that a bit more detail later. Fourth, we have a very international, vibrant, and inclusive community here. It's not just a study where you're just checking the list that you took a bunch of classes and at the end you graduate. You're not just following that, you're actually joining a community when you come here. We genuinely believe this, and that's a community not only of students, but also of staff, also your teaching staff. Again, we'll discuss this stuff in a bit more detail later. And then finally, the 5th reason to study the PPE at the VU is that we have a number of opportunities for studying further after PPE here at the VU, and I'll go through that list in detail. So these are just some reasons to study PPE at the VU, but I'd like to also give you just a couple of, like, these are just facts about the program. It's an English taught program. It's a small scale and intensive program. What that means is that compared to other programs, you actually have a lot of contact hours with lecturers and with the seminar instructors, more contact hours than you get in other studies. We actually have an honors program that you can follow if you really, are looking for that extra challenge. We put together a really nice honors program for those students. We tend to be, around 50% international students, 50% Dutch students. That kind of varies year to year, just depending on the year. Sometimes it's 60-40, one way. Sometimes it's 60-40 the other way. But it's a nice international mix. We usually get about 80 to 100 students per year. Now, this isn't like a fixed ceiling on number of students. This is just what we tend to get. One other thing that's nice about our program is that we have our own in-house academic advisor. An academic advisor is there to talk to. They actually meet with every single student in the first year, so that they get to know who you are, and they're there if any issues arise in your study progress or anything related to your study. And we have our own person sitting in the study area where all the students are studying as well. So the accessibility of our academic advisor is really important. What I'd like to do briefly is go through just the curriculum, so you get a sense of what the PPE program looks like. So what you see here depicted is year 1. So this is your first year, and the courses that you see are actually you can see the 3 disciplines coming up. So there's 2 philosophy courses, 2 political science courses, and 2 economics courses. So those are those are the 3 disciplinary courses that you take. You also see 2 methods courses. These like logic, mathematics, statistics. These are courses that are kind of give you, we talked about a toolkit before. They give you these sort of like analytical tools that are useful in a lot of the courses that you take, other disciplinary courses that you take. And then you also see depicted there at the bottom 2 of the PPE and practice courses. That's those interdisciplinary courses that I was mentioning earlier. So you see in your first year, this is what you take. This is in a way the kind of foundational year. Every student who enters the program takes this palette of courses in the first year. In the second year, things get sort of interesting. You actually choose 2 tracks to focus on. So you don't take all 3 disciplines all the way through. So you choose 2 to focus on, and then you only follow courses in those 2 tracks, so to say, for the second year. But then you also see depicted there at the bottom, at the end of each semester, you take one of these interdisciplinary PPE and practice courses. You take two more of these. So that's the second year. This is your chance to in a way sort of specialize in 2 of the 3 disciplines. And then year 3, things get really fun. So the first semester you study abroad or you do an internship. it is also possible to do a minor here at the VU, and I'll discuss these three options in just a second. But what I want to also say is that, you know, kind of after this special 5th semester, you come back for your final semester with us. You have to follow a couple more courses, one more of the interdisciplinary courses, and then you have to write the thesis, of course. So that's your final year with us. And what I wanted to do is spend some time discussing the PP in practice courses. So these are these interdisciplinary courses. What you see depicted here are the covers of policy briefs that our students have written in these courses. And as I said before, you know, we see PPE as being important in you know, developing policy solutions to the problems that we face. And these you know, these are really just, I've taught these courses before, and it's so impressive to see how our students are able to like bring together the three disciplines in defending a particular you know, particular policy solution. These are just really fun courses, really great courses, and really kind of demonstrate in a way the promise and the power of PPE. I want to also discuss this third year, this 5th semester. So the study abroad options you see depicted here. So you can see that we have a number of options. I'm not going to read them all, but just all over the world. Many of these are PPE programs themselves. Others are, you know, philosophy programs or political science programs or economics programs, and you know, you can basically, in a way, this is another way in which you can kind of personalize your PPE education by which study abroad program that you opt for. But this is again, you can see kind of where we are all over the world as options for study abroad. Some people again choose to follow an internship. Maybe you really want to get that professional experience as soon as possible. And these are some a list of some of the different internships that our students have followed. This is a third-year student of ours, Philip, who did an internship at EcoPeace, which is in Tel Aviv, this past semester. And so people have done some really interesting and I think worked for and really important work in these internships. And this is just another way of kind of complementing your PPE education with a bit of professional experience. It is also possible, if you don't opt for the internship or the study abroad, to follow. We have just a couple of different minor programs that PPE students can follow. By and large, most students do a study abroad. We always have like a handful of students who do an internship. That's just how it shakes out usually every year. The thesis trajectory is something that I also wanted to highlight. So it's a special thing. We do things special in our program, and that includes also the thesis. It's not something where you're just sitting alone with your computer in a corner of the library by yourself writing it. We have this group structure where you're actually in teams of 4. You're writing your own thesis, but you're doing it in the context of a group, and we see this sort of synergy between students. You've all studied PPE. You can all help each other. You can bring the kind of interdisciplinary perspective in the kind of group discussions that we have. And this way of doing thesis has been really had promising results. We've won the thesis award in our faculty every year since 2020. Our students have, and we've even had some publications come out of the thesis. You can see that depicted there in the pictures. So so that's PPE and PPE at the VU and a bit about our program. But I want to now is turn things over to Alexa and Sophia, who are going to tell you about what it's like to study at PPE, what it's like to be a student. Yeah.
Hello, so we're going to talk about the teaching formats. So basically we have like two courses per period, and so for each course you have 2 lectures and 2 seminars per week. And the lectures, you have like everyone in first year, you have everyone in your class, and second year you have everyone in the track. It's just like everyone and with the professor, and it's just a lecture. And then we also have seminars, 2 seminars per course per week, and those are like in groups of like 20 with like 1 seminar teacher. And these seminar teachers are people that follow you throughout the years, and you always have them. So they start getting to know you and you build very close relationships, especially because also on the 4th floor, they have their office here. So we can see them, we can go ask them questions, even if they're not your teacher, but you still have a question about something in the course and you can't find your teacher, you can go ask other of the teachers in that field.
Yeah, it's good to mention that lectures are not mandatory, but they're highly recommended. I mean, we always get such good insights from just being in the lecture and hearing people's opinions while the course is actually being taught. You always gather all the information that you need to study at home, or like the information that's going to be addressed in the seminars, which are mandatory. I think when it comes to contact hours, they're about 16, if I'm right, per week, meaning it's a lot of also individual work. So you guys get to organize how you want your day to be like. According to that, you can plan around your seminar and study a bit on your own, come at the fourth floor, ask your classmates a question, knock on somebody's door if there's something that maybe you don't understand. Now, what are basically junior docents are people who are there to help you and kind of be your moral and support when it comes to the material you're actually being given to study. In the seminars, you're going to interact with them. They're going to kind of lead the seminars and facilitate that communication between you and your classmates. They're the ones who kind of are your direct point of contact between you and the teacher, the lecturer. You can always ask them questions. They're quite close in age to us, so it feels very approachable. And it's always such a very understanding and calm environment, and you feel like all your questions can be answered, and you can always come up with if there's anything you don't understand, you always have somebody to explain it to you. So there's a great dynamic between us and our judos, also between the judos and the teachers themselves.
And usually what we do with them, it kind of depends on the course, but for more economics courses, usually what we'll do in the seminars with them, we'll go through problems and problem sets and explain exercises or examples that were in the lectures or in the readings. But then philosophy and politics, there's way more like debates and like discussing papers and discussing objections and replies to objections.
And readings,
yeah.
discussing the materials. Maybe you didn't understand the theoretical concept and you would want to talk about it again in the seminar. That's the perfect time for you to raise your hand and ask a question.
Yeah. You can also ask questions in the lectures, which people do a lot, because I think it's important to note that even in the lectures and in any course you'll take in PPE, you're only taking it with PPE students. So it's not like you're taking a philosophy course with a lot of philosophy students as well. It's really just us. And because we're so small scale, even in lectures, it's really easy and it's not like intimidating to raise your hand and ask a question to the professor, because if you have a question, more people probably have it. And
yeah, it's even encouraged to ask questions and raise concerns. Moving on to the actual John Stuart Mill College and the vibrant international community. As we mentioned already, you're having all your classes here on the fourth floor, and it's great because the fourth floor is dedicated exclusively to PPE students. That means you're gonna see your classmates probably every day. You're gonna get to meet people from the first and second and third years. It's very nice because it's such a strong community that if you have a question or you don't know what course to choose in your second year, you can always approach a third year and ask, hey, what did you think about this? What course would you recommend? If you struggle with one of your exercises in methods or in economics, you can always tap somebody on the shoulder and be like, I know you took the class. Can you please explain this to me? So it's a very cooperative environment, and people are more than willing to help you and engage in conversations and stories. You have a dedicated area just for studying that's silent, and that's when you see all your teachers, their offices, and also you get to work in silence, and you don't have to bother about having to find a place to study during study week in the university. And you also have the social area when you meet everybody and you just grab a coffee between lectures or between seminars, and it's very, very nice, and it feels like home generally. And the fun part of PPE, the extracurricular activities, we have, I think, 3 different associations. We have Calliope, we have PPE Encounters, and PPE in Practice. In person. Calliope is the study association of the study PPE. They organize different events and activities. They have 12 committees. They have a sports committee, an excursion one, MUN. Anything you can think of, they have a committee dedicated to it. You can join these committees and be part of the community, but you can just come to the events if you don't want to necessarily engage in that regard. There's always something for you to do. I think every Wednesday there is a dedicated spot for different events where guest lecturers can come in. Also, if you have an idea for an event, there's always somebody you can come and approach and tell them your idea and make that event happen. As you can see, they took trips to different places. They also had very interesting guest speakers. I think if we go to the next slide, you see them hanging out in parks. There's a lot of things happening all around. And I think PPE really allows for you to develop other interests and hobbies that you have besides the studying. This also kind of touches upon the study workload. If you are organized and you manage your time after every lecture and every seminar, you go over the material, you have time to do other stuff as well. There are people who are also working besides their PPE career. They're also doing honors, so they're taking more credits. So really, it really allows for you to organize yourself how you want, and there's always people you can ask for support if you find yourself struggling. And I think it's very important that you get to have fun with the people who have the same interest in you. You get to play sports, get to go to events, and also develop other interests besides just PPE.
I think the community really like fosters a lot of like self-development, because everyone works very hard, everyone is very invested in what they're studying, which only makes you want to be more invested. And then everyone also has interests which they're very willing to pursue, and they do pursue. And so like it opens up so many doors for you, and you find out that there's so many other things that you can do on the side as well, which is always very nice to see that you have so many things you can actually balance with studying this.
And yeah, here are more like pictures from the Keele BBB Board. I think it's also important to stress that they collaborate with other study associations as well. So you do get to build a strong PPE community, but you also engage with other students from other universities as well.
Yeah, and they have a lot of events, especially for first-year students, because it's about building that community, especially in the beginning. So there's a freshers weekend, and some of these pictures, like the picture at the beach, that's from freshers weekend, where we brought everyone to The Hague, and we went to the beach, and everyone was together for a weekend in like the beginning of the year. So if you guys are joining PPE, you probably will have a freshers weekend as well. And yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Alexa and Sophia. That was really great to hear. So, a life after PPE. So we've heard about the curriculum. We've heard about life during PPE, and now what's life like after PPE? What are your options? Well, most people go on to follow a master's program. About half do that here in the Netherlands. But another, roughly 30% choose to do a master abroad. And a number of people also, as you can see, go straight into work right after getting their bachelor's. Others take a gap year. There's a mix of other things people can do. But since overwhelmingly most people do the masters, I want to discuss what those options are for you. So here at the VU, all of our students are automatically qualified just for studying PPE to do a master in any one of the disciplines. You can do master of philosophy and political science or economics. So this is just so you can understand, it's not like you just do, economics light or political science light when you follow a broad study like ours, or interdisciplinary study like ours. No, you're actually prepared to just go automatically into these programs, and we see that our students really excel in these programs. But there are others as well. So there are other VU master's programs as well, which PPE students qualify for, but you have to maybe also submit you have to have a certain grade level or a certain kind of motivation. And you see a list of those there. They include like the Humanities Research Master in Philosophy, some interdisciplinary master's programs like Law, Politics, and International Security. Philosophy van Cultuurbestuur is a Dutch program. So you can see that these are the options that we have at the VU. But again, people go elsewhere, and so this is just a list of interdisciplinary master's programs, but also programs in the different disciplines. This isn't just like where people could go. This is where our students have gone or are currently studying or have studying afterwards. And what we're really, so proud of our students and how successful they are in following really impressive, master's programs after our bachelor program. And what we hear from them is that, especially the ones that go in the interdisciplinary programs, but also the ones who just go and just follow one. What we hear, consistently is that the kind of interdisciplinary bachelor study that they had has really helped them at the master's level. Even if they're just going in and focusing on one, they can bring those different perspectives together in their master's program. But then, what do you do with if you study as far as a career? What do you do with PPE? Well, again, this is a list of things that our students have actually gone on to do, not just possible options, but so in government and policy making, right? So we've got students working right now as doing policy research at Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Netherlands, or the Dutch Embassy at Washington D.C. NGOs are a popular career path that our students have taken. We have some graduates who are working at the UN, for example. We have a number of students who have gone on to do a PhD already. And in fact, we have a student, a former PPE graduate, who's going to come back and do their PPE here with us, and will be a seminar instructor for new students or for current students. So that's an option. But our students have also been really successful in getting in consultancy, finance type jobs, right? So the kind of interdisciplinary way of thinking is really valued by consultancies, for example, and our students have really done landed some really interesting positions there. So then finally, how to apply. So these are the admissions requirements to get in. So you have to have either a Dutch VWO diploma or an international diploma of the equivalent level. You have to have a certain GPA, and that GPA has to be equivalent to a 7 in the Dutch grading system. I will say that for these admissions requirements, please go to our website and click on admissions, and you just see this is just a kind of brief summary, but you'll just see exhaustively all the different requirements, also for each different country and stuff. So please go there. You also do have to prove sufficient level of English and mathematics, and there are different ways that you can do that. This is just a list here of the different ways that you can meet that requirement. Again, please check our website, and you'll see in exhaustive detail all this information. It is important that your English and math is of sufficient level, just because it's a demanding program, and the methods courses require that background in math, and we see that our students, students who can prove this really succeed. The deadlines for application, for non-EU students, unfortunately, the deadline is passed for the next academic year that's coming up. That was April 1st. You can still apply for the upcoming academic year if you are an EU student. That deadline is coming up. It's May 1st. But these are just the deadlines. So for next year, there will be an early bird deadline, which is always in February, and then the non-EU and EU deadlines will be roughly the same also for next year. So this just gives you an idea. And what the early bird does, just so you know, is that enables you to get a quicker response. So you can get your answer whether you're admitted or conditionally admitted within 2 weeks. Otherwise, after the early bird deadline, you have to wait a little bit longer. If you have any questions, these are a couple of email addresses that you can use to submit any questions about your admissions. And finally, please follow us on our socials. So PP _VU on Instagram is really active. It's one of my favorite Instagram follows. You can see what's going on here in our program, all the different activities and events and stuff. And we're also having a taster day just tomorrow for students who are in the Netherlands. You can use this QR code to sign up for our taster day, and you can actually spend the day as a PP student. And that concludes the presentation. We're here for your questions, so please don't hesitate to ask.
Yes, indeed. We're now going over to the Q&A part. So that's where all you come in, the viewers that joined us live. Thanks for joining, first of all. We saw people coming in, joining in from various different countries. That's already great to see. We already received some questions. Just to highlight, though, for people that watch the recording, you can still all participate in questions and providing also the feedback on the polling. So please do so. We'd like to hear your feedback regarding questions. Of course, we cannot answer them now live, but we will send them through to the staff. All right, let's go with the questions we received already. First of all, question from Stine. It might have been already answered, I think, but just to make sure, are there internships to gain experience? I think you mentioned something, Phil.
Yeah, yes, there are. Yes, in that 5th semester, we have that's the internship semester, and we see our students, as I mentioned, have done some really interesting internships. It's always should be in a kind of organization or institution that has a kind of and working on a project that has a kind of relationship to PPE in some way. So the internship coordinator will ensure that that's the case.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Question from Avril. Avril is asking, does it matter if you're not good in maths, but in other classes?
So as I mentioned, we do have the higher mathematics requirement. Now, I would say if you meet that requirement, then, we've set it where we've set it because we think that if you meet that requirement, that's sufficient math and that you'll do fine. So just check whether you meet those requirements. Some people are stronger in math, some people are stronger in other subjects. That's fine, but just if you do meet that requirements, then we think that you'll be okay. Maybe Alex and Sophia can speak to this. Yeah.
Also, if math isn't your strong suit, it's not the end of the world because economics is what requires math, and in second year you can always drop economics, but you'll still have some math that's used in first year and in third year as well. You do pick up back the economics, and in the PIP courses there is still some economics and a bit of math, but you're in groups, and so there's always people that can help you with the math. So even if you're not that good, we also have a tutoring program with Calliope. So there's tutors that are so along with the junior docents and the lecturers, you have people from the years above that help you with, usually it's the math stuff. And so you can always, even if you're not able to join the actual tutoring times, you can always go find them and talk to them on the floor.
Yeah, and as Phil said, if you meet the math requirement when you enter PPE, you should already kind of have a bit of a confidence that you're gonna be fine, and here you're gonna meet the support you need to get through the math part.
But important to know, if you're starting next year, I would recommend, or even the year after, I would recommend doing the week before you start doing a bit of math, because when you start, the first course is just the basics of math and it goes a bit fast. But so maybe just review a bit if it's not your strong suit. But yeah, if you meet the requirements, you should be fine.
Great. Thank you very much, ladies. And we're getting the thumbs up from the audience, so I think they're also happy with the answer. That is great to hear. That question from Elena, well, and I think also Vladislav was asking regarding scholarships. Are there scholarships available? Well, you mentioned something for international students applying for 2023.
So unfortunately, we don't have any, the VU doesn't itself have any scholarships. This is something that we've been working on getting for a number of years, but that's still in development. But we don't have any, no. So unfortunately, again, the short answer is no. But some of our students have come to us with having won scholarships in their home countries from different organizations. I would encourage looking for those, but we don't have our own, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Ansgar. What masters are you eligible for? I think you did mention actually those, but you want to add something to this?
Yeah. I'll add to that. So again, there are a number of master's programs that we've ensured that, if you just stay at the VU, that you just can go into, that you automatically qualify for. And that's just would be a master's in any of the 3 disciplines. Well, I will maybe highlight that, well, we've seen that there are increasingly many students following a multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary master's program as well. And these are offered. So these are programs that often they combine, like ethics and public policy is a popular one. They often combine maybe 1 or 2, and sometimes all 3 disciplines. Also at the master's level, what we see is, I think some students, they really get a taste for thinking in this interdisciplinary way, and they really want to continue doing that at the master's level. And that's also an option.
Thank you. And just to highlight for people regarding the application procedures, by the way, so I pasted the link in the chat. So for all, just to make sure you have the link to the program overview, the curriculum, also the admission requirements. So if you want to read up on that, just click on it, it opens, and you can read at your own pace after the session and even apply there directly. Good. Next question from Daria. Is it reasonable for people who have already completed bachelor's and a master's degree at other universities to enroll in this program to gain more knowledge? In her case, it was pedagogy and international relations.
Mm-hmm. I think that's it's a good question. I think it's a personal question in a way, and it's what you want. There is a risk of doing doing another bachelor after having studied so much that you might feel like, oh, I'm back in first year university level courses, and that could be a bit of a change from what you're used to. So that's something I think to keep in mind. But in terms of, if it's, I would say that if you've already done a program that's in one of the 3 disciplines, then maybe you would find a lot of it's redundant, and that would be a reason not to go for our study. But I think it's just what you're looking for, I would say. Yeah. Oh, Sophia has
I think we actually have quite a few people that do that have already done a bachelor when they start PPE. Maybe if you did a master's in international relations, then maybe the politics stuff will be redundant, but you can drop politics in second year, and then you're just getting all the basics for philosophy and economics. And I think PPE is a degree that's compatible with a lot of different things. So there's some people that did computer science before and then did PPE, and then those 2 combine very well. We have people that did biology, and so PPE gets combined very well with a lot of things. So I think it's not unreasonable to be considering doing this, although you already have a bachelor and a master's.
Yeah, I think as Phil said, our website is quite extensive, so you can always look at the curriculum and see what is actually taught in the specific classes, and see if that's new to you and you would be interested in following that.
Okay. Thanks, ladies, again. I hope that was clarifying that. Next question from Stine. Stine is asking, how about housing? I heard it's difficult to find. Can the VU help?
Yes, housing. This is an issue in the Netherlands in general, and also in Amsterdam. So it is for international. It's a bit different between, I think, international students and Dutch students. So international students, you can actually, once you get accepted through the international office, they do have a procedure with which you can apply to get housing. It's called Allenstede, which is that's one of the options, which is not too far from the VU. And so that is an option. They don't have enough room for everyone, so it's kind of, I think, the sooner that you get, once you get accepted, please, if you're an international student, if you're accepted to the program, then the sooner that you can start that procedure, the better. But yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, and the students can maybe speak to this as well. And we see students, some students, every year struggling with finding something. But and in terms of what the VU can offer through the international office, quite a lot. For the Dutch students, there are the kind of standard routes that Dutch students take to find housing. Those unfortunately are not coordinated by the VU, but those do exist.
Okay.
I think from my experience, when I started PPE, who offered you to apply and pay a fee for them to find you housing. And first of all, I underestimated how hard it would be. So I would really, really advise you to pay that fee because it's really worth it. And that way you're ensured that you're going to find a place cheaper than other alternatives. Plus, the moment I think you get accepted fully into PPE, you're going to be added to a group chat, or there are going to be some sort of event. So you're going to be put in contact with students. And that's already good because you can always ask the students who are finishing or the second years who are going on exchange for their recommendations, or if they're subletting their place, or what you can use. Because PPE is so small, you get in contact with other students, so they can really help you with this process.
And you get in contact with them even before you start. So like, once you're in the group chat, there will be second years and third years in the group chat who will be like, "Hi, we're looking for people to take over our place." So yeah, that's very useful.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We get a thumbs up again, so that is useful, I think. So thank you. Next question from Stefano. By the way, before I forget and I get back on the housing part, I just want to mention, actually, we do have a special housing webinar from VU Amsterdam next week. So maybe that's a good point to highlight. So on our portal, the studyabroadportal.com, next week, Thursday, so the 20th of April, there's a special webinar from the VU Amsterdam on housing. So as Phil mentioned, it is a known difficulty and a challenge. And so you might want to join that webinar to find it out. So you can find it on our portal. All right, next question from Stefano. Are the practice courses the same every year?
I think you mean I think you're referring to those PE and practice courses. Yeah, these are the interdisciplinary ones. They are the same every year in terms of overall topic. However, within the course, I mean, our professors are constantly revising it and trying to make it relevant to the current issue. So, for example, there's one of the PP and practice courses. It's called Connected World, and a good chunk of it has to do with AI. And so I know that that's you're going to be reading kind of state of the art things. So I would say that they're somewhat set in terms of overall theme, but of course there's particular material that you cover within that theme that evolves, and that evolves in response to current events and that kind of thing.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next question from Stine. I'm from Norway, so not the EU. Can I not apply anymore?
I would check. Yeah, this could be one of the ones where Norway has a special status, and I don't know it off the top of my head. If you again go to our website, the PP admissions website, you will have that information. Yeah, exactly. So it's in the EEA, and you'll see whether EEA countries are also fall under this under EU.
Okay.
Let me just
hope that answered that. But yeah, do check out the website. The link is there in the chat. I will put it on the screen just in a minute as well. Before we go to another question, so just to make sure, that Vladislav is asking, what's the cost of 1 year of education of PPE?
The cost. Oh, that used to be on the that used to be on the slide. The cost changes slightly every year. Let me see what the latest figures are. 1 second.
I think from what I remember, it might be 4,200, but you get a reduction. I'm talking as an EU student, and you get a reduction of 1,000 in the first year.
Yeah, but
But-
I think it's different for non-EU.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Let me check. I can't.
While
can't
I
find it
do
on
put
the-
on the link on the screen on the program overview and the procedures. So just to make sure you all have that. Yeah, cannot find directly the cost there either myself, but do check that out. And it's probably similar to what the ladies were
I
saying.
think for international students, I think it's like 13,000
That's what we're being told by a non-EU.
students.
Yeah, and for EU students, PPE is for next year going to be 4,350. But again, there's that like discount the first year, and yeah, that's for EU students 4,350.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Those were the questions we've received so far. So if no other questions come in, then I think everyone is clear about this. If you're watching the recording, you can still write your questions. Also, thanks everyone for your poll answers. I have one more poll question coming up in just a second. And before we round off this session, so let's see. Yeah, those were the questions we received. So then we're going over to the last polling over my head right there. We'd like to know your feedback. How did you feel the session went? Do you feel it was good? Was it meeting your expectations? Well, we see so far it is. For the people getting in, thank you for your vote answers. We appreciate it. Let us know. And having said that, I would like to thank, first of all, Phil, for your time, and also Alexa and Sophia for your time and your clear, great input. I'm sure that was very useful for the potential students that might be joining the program next year, in the coming year. And having said that, maybe last words over to Phil to round off the session.
Yes. Again, I really thank you. It's an honor that you took some time to hear about our program, and study choice is one of the hardest, one of the most significant choices that you might make in your life. And although we would love to have you here, I teach the first year ethics course. I would love to see you in September, sitting in the chairs. But it's, I wish you all the best in making a study choice that fits your ambitions and your values. And I wish you all the best with that.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.